Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone, wherever you are, whatever your time zone, welcome. This is Digital Transformation Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. Today, we'll be discussing the topic of industry AI and what you need to know. Now, industries of all kinds are undergoing a significant transformation driven by advancements in artificial intelligence. By leveraging AI, industry leaders of all kinds are hoping to gain a competitive advantage and streamline their operations and innovate like never before. But what do you do and what do you need to know in order to be ready to take advantage of AI adoption? Well, there are several important factors to consider to be ready. We'll be exploring many of them today, but it certainly starts with a focus on data quality and management. AI, of course, relies on vast amounts of high quality data, so it's important to focus on organizing, storing, and cleaning your data to make sure it's AI ready. But ultimately, to really move the needle in terms of business innovation, digital transformation, it's important to identify use cases for AI. So a good first step is to evaluate how AI is being used in your particular industry and identify key applications where AI could optimize your workflows and reduce errors and really, as I say, move the needle in terms of organizational performance. To get there takes a good AI strategy. So it's important to evaluate your business goals and align your AI initiatives with your organization's business goals to create a roadmap for AI integration that includes things like budgets and resources for the investments that you need in terms of technology and talent and time. And ROI and measurable outcomes are essential. So be sure to establish clear objectives and track AI performance to ensure your return on investment and continuous improvement in your operations. Look, all of this is a tall order. So how do you do it? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today with a great panel of guests. But before I introduce our guests, I do want to say that I want to say hello to everyone and say thank you for attending today. Hello, everybody on LinkedIn Live that's joining us. Also, everyone on Zoom. Join us on Zoom and you can get the full experience here on Zoom with us. But we want to hear from you too. We'd like to encourage everyone attending today to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat section. If you have a question along the way, please jump on in. I will attempt to get some of your questions and comments into the flow of the discussion today, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, with all of that said, we have a big panel today. Let's get to it, starting with our first guest, Dave Duvarney. Dave is principal at Baker Tilly's Digital Solutions Group. He has over 20 years of experience in advanced data analytics and digital transformation. As the leader of Baker Tilly's Data Analytics Advisory Services, Dave specializes in data strategy, enterprise architecture, business transformation, and of course in adopting AI. So Dave, welcome aboard today. Where are you calling in from?
I'm located in Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, Wisconsin. I've spent some time in Madison. What a wonderful city. Thank you, Dave, for joining us today. Also with us is Mark Brewer. Mark is the VP of Service Industries at IFS. He's a thought leader with 25 years of experience in pre-sales, product management, business development, and marketing within global enterprise software. He is an expert in business transformation, so we're really pleased to have Mark with us today. Mark, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kevin, I'm calling in from the real Birmingham, England.
Ah, okay, very good, very good. Well, welcome aboard, Mark. It's great to have you with us. Also joining us today is Mike Gosling, Service Platforms Manager at Cubic Transportation Systems, excuse me, as a company that's been using IFS planning scheduling optimization system that utilizes AI to dynamically schedule field services engineers to service incidents. We're looking forward to having Mike on here and his perspective as a direct user of AI. Mike, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from?
Hi, Kevin. I'm calling from Surrey, just south of London in England.
Surrey, very good. All right, Mike, very good. Thank you so much for joining us today. And finally, Peter Pierce. Peter is a principal with Baker Tilly and a seasoned expert with over 32 years of experience in manufacturing enterprise technology. In 2006, he pioneered a cloud manufacturing process that integrated technology across every level of operations, from the shop floor to the executive suite. And Peter believes that AI is the most significant disruptor that we've seen. So Peter, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from today?
I am calling in from London, England, and hello, everybody.
Well, very good. All right. We are covering the globe today. Gentlemen, we have a packed agenda today, so I want to move us along quickly and start our discussion by pointing our attention to an article published by Baker Tilly about how artificial intelligence is transforming the manufacturing industry. The article points to three ways to consider. It boosts operational efficiency by automating repetitive tasks, enhances agility and product quality by predicting defects and responding to market changes, and improves decision making with analyzing data to detect patterns, helping leaders make choices that really move the needle. Now, gentlemen, I'd like to get your take on the article. Starting with you, Dave, what are your thoughts on this article?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts to hit on, just again, some of the key factors that we have to think of as we approach AI, and that it is going to transform what we do. Some of the highlights you see in there talking about digital twins and Industry 4.0. Those are things that are coming, and organizations now, as they look to move forward, they really have to look at how are they going to adopt these AI technologies and just kind of where to start. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that as we go.
Mark, did we miss anything? Did the article miss anything that are important considerations that you feel we should be considering?
No, really quite holistic article, Kevin. I would say manufacturing, let's look at not just the operation itself with our own facilities, but also, start with the customer and work backwards. And obviously, there are a number of use cases in manufacturing that a manufacturer can really leverage. Hopefully we'll explore some of those in today's session.
Okay, all right. And Mike, what are your thoughts on the article, and how does this relate to other industries, for example, transportation?
Well, I actually thought the article was really good because point three, which is about decision making, and it absolutely aligns with what we're using the tool for, PSO, which has AI in it. We have to make complex decisions quickly on a lot of data, a lot of complex data. And I'll talk about it later, but the tool that we use from IFS does that for us, which means that we're able to build a business on top of that platform. So it rang a lot of bells for me. It rang an awful lot of bells.
All right, very good. We'll hopefully have a chance to explore some of that. And Peter, your thoughts on the article. What should manufacturers specifically consider?
So when you look at AI, I think that's an overwhelming thought for a lot of individuals in the manufacturing space. When we step back and look through the history of what we've done from, say, an Industry 4.0 perspective to where we're at today, there's been a lot of data, right? We've been aggregating data for several years within our business technology. We've been analyzing it through analytics. Well, all we're doing with the AI is the software vendors such as IFS are building this analytic AI layer that's going to be self-directive to tell you where you should be looking versus trying to figure out where to look on your own. So it's going to be guiding, and I think individuals may be intimidated, but I think of it as nothing more as running those analytics in a directional format so you can make better business decisions faster.
That's an important point. And, business intelligence is something that's been around for centuries. And so this is just another layer of advanced business intelligence of building that decision-making process to make the right decisions for organizational performance. All right. It's a great little article. If Talk Elf, if you could pop that into the chat feature, I'd like to point that to the audience in case they would like to take a look at that article for yourself. Please let us know what you think in the comment section. There it is. There it is in the chat feature. There's the hyperlink to the article if you're interested. All right, very good. Let's move along, gentlemen, to our discussion points today, starting with the relevance of AI in industry today. Certainly, I'm curious, looking beyond ChatGPT, since that seems to be what we talk about more often. But Mark, when we were talking before the session, you were saying that it may be important for our audience to get grounded in exploring briefly the types and classes of AI. What did you have in mind there, Mark?
Yeah, and I'll try and keep it brief, Kevin. But as the session suggests here, we're looking beyond Copilot, beyond Gen AI. And I'm going to relay quickly classes of AI that we've identified in IFS. The first one is content generation. Think about when a field engineer visits a customer and is able to automatically summarize what they've done during that visit. Think about recommendations such as prompting the human to cross-sell and upsell or to renew a contract, for example. Think about anomaly detection. This was touched on in one of the earlier discussions with, with vibration analysis. One of our customers makes power generators, and over a period of time, if they see a pattern of vibration, they can almost predict when that machine is going to catastrophically fail. That's anomaly detection. Another one might be optimization, and Mike here from Cubic uses our solution called PSO, planning and scheduling optimization, and that optimizes the field engineers, the field resources, and it optimizes the routes of those engineers. The fifth one I would categorize as forecasting and simulation. We can think about augmenting those manufacturing plans with weather data, for example, for the demand forecast that's going to be generated, or simulating a what-if scenario. What if I win a new contract with customer X? Where would I need to deploy additional resources to meet those service levels? And then finally, contextual knowledge, which is more akin to the ChatGPT Gen AI world. Contextual knowledge might be, for example, the co-pilot sitting alongside the connected factory worker and actually prompting them the work instructions to set up a new machine or to set up a new production line for a new process. So the point I'm making overall here, Kevin, is it's beyond Gen AI, it's beyond LLMs, which are an important part, but in industrial AI, there are a number of classes that go beyond sort of consumer level AI to more enterprise class AI. Hopefully that was a bit of a feel for the audience.
All right, well, that gives us a good grounding. Now, Mike, I'm curious. You folks at Cubic are using the IFS planning scheduling optimization system that utilizes AI to dynamically schedule field service engineers to service incidents. Can you just briefly describe how you folks are using AI in this way and some of the value that you're getting out of it?
Yeah, sure. So we're a service organization that has many customers. And one of our biggest customers has many contracts within that big customer. And we take every customer incredibly seriously. Even if it's a small customer, we absolutely are obsessed with pleasing the customer. And when that happens, it means that when we get service incidents come in across the board, the last thing we want to do is have a pile of engineers for that customer and a pile of engineers for that customer, because our overheads would kill us. So we do have shared resources and we do have shared stock and things like that. But it's important to make sure that we service the customer. So when Mark talked about the PSO system scheduling routes, everyone could do that in their car nowadays with SatNav. But it's a lot more complex than that, because it takes every single incident that comes in and it looks at the type of incident, it looks at the SLA of that incident, it looks at the tools that are needed, the skills that are required, the location, the certification, the access points, all of these constraints, and it will build a plan and automatically schedule and allocate engineers to that job. But it doesn't do it at a one-hit time. One of the strengths of the system is that it's constantly learning from its own plan, and this is the optimization. So it'll create a plan and then create another plan and create another plan, and it'll do this instantaneously, and it'll keep on looking and evolving, and the result is that you might get a little job, for example, that comes in where a bit's been ordered and it's a small job but it's a couple of days old. We don't worry, the controllers haven't forgotten about it, because the system knows that it has its merit, has its importance, it has its value, and it will make sure it's assigned to our engineers. And this means that we're covering all our contracts, we're servicing everyone happily, we're using resources more effectively, we're using tools and spare parts more effectively, we're cutting the mileage down where needed, and it works to mean that we've been able to grow the business by keeping those engineer tools and resources at a relatively small number. We've kept them, we haven't employed loads more engineers and such like. And the other thing about the tool, which is really good, is that if we get a major incident, for example, or an exception incident, or we get something come in where a P1 or P2 comes in, things like that, Obviously, we'll have eyes on those because bells and whistles go off, but the system will shape around it immediately, and it will shape around those jobs, but it will continue to manage the other jobs at the same time. And when you have humans dealing with that sort of thing, it's those other jobs that often fall by the wayside. This system doesn't do that. This system takes everything in account and manages around it. So it's been very powerful for Cubic, and we've used it to great effect.
Well, and I love that story because it's not ChatGPT,
Yeah,
right? Here's
exactly.
an application of AI that's practical. You're using it every day. It's making a difference, and it's not generative AI. But Peter, you work quite a bit with manufacturing organizations. What are some of the applications that are not ChatGPT that you feel are on the horizon for manufacturing that we should be considering?
Yeah, sure, Kevin. So I've seen use cases across the spectrum, but one of the very common use cases is using machine learning. Now, keep in mind, machine learning's been around for a long time, right? But now that we've had better tools and technology and layers that we can put in place, that we can actually deploy predictive maintenance. So we have clients that run big equipments with a lot of different and very expensive tooling that need to monitor and manage that. And typically, that's historically based upon number of runs, or we need to go take a look at the wear and tear in the tooling. But now we're able to apply logic based upon this historic aspect of when we had to replace the tooling. We can bring that aggregate data in, and machine learning helps us, direct and give us points in time when we need to start looking at predictive maintenance so that we can plan scheduling. So we don't want the machine to go down in the middle of a key production run when we need to get product out the door. We want to make sure we plan and accordingly. And that's a key use case that we see a lot of value today.
And those are real numbers there, Peter, too. I mean, those are dollar type money numbers, right? Now, Dave, I've been sort of avoiding ChatGPT, but really, I'm also curious. What are some of the applications that are using ChatGPT that we have not considered that can help any organization really make a difference and start adopting AI in ways that matter?
Yeah, I think right now, obviously, we mentioned content creation from a ChatGPT perspective. So I think as that kind of journey begins into some of these AI tools, the ChatGPTs of the world, co-pilots of the world, they're going to help us with content. It'll help you write emails. Maybe it's a note to a customer, a reply to a customer, set the tone for that content. Those are kind of table stakes use cases today that I think people have to start adopting these tools and start to leverage them to do that. I think the future piece of where ChatGPT goes and others large language models is really to think of them as more of a natural interface to other elements. So there'll be these conversations out there about agentic workflows is a term that people might hear coming out, where you have API calls into other systems and you're leveraging a large language model to talk to that system and ask it to do something, and then it responds and does something back. Those are definitely future use cases, but that's where it's going. So starting with your basic content creation, but then it should evolve into interacting with more systems more naturally.
All right, we are here today. This is Digital Transformation Talk. We're here today with Dave Duvarney, Mark Brewer, Mike Gosling, and Peter Pierce. We're talking about AI in industry and what you need to know. If you have a question or a comment for one of our panelists, please feel free to enter that into the chat feature. I will be looking over there for any comments or questions that we have, and I'll be attempting to get them into the flow of our discussion today. And we'll have a few minutes also near the end as well. Let's move along to our next discussion point, and that is real world use cases and delivering real world value. In other words, what I'm getting at is it's nice to talk conceptually about how we could be using a solution or an approach or a strategy. I'm curious how folks are using it and what the results are, what some of the measurable results are. I believe in the old adage, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So I'm curious about real world examples. What did they do and what were the results? Dave, can you give us a real world example of one organization that you feel has been particularly successful? What did they do and what were the results?
Yeah, so one kind of top of mind, and it sits on the large language model, kind of generative AI front, we did an innovation session with an organization that takes in a lot of request documents. And again, many organizations taking in documents of different forms. We've always had OCR technology to go out there and read those documents, but when the structures aren't perfect, sometimes that can be difficult to do. What we've done with this organization, they had a heavy manual effort to go in and look at basically letters, other non-structured documents that are out there. We're building an intake process on those documents to collect data, leveraging both traditional OCR technologies and ChatGPT on the front end to pull those pieces out. They have, I would have to go back to the exact number. And again, this organization is processing tens of thousands of documents every month. Each individual has to go look at that for a few minutes. So you imagine if the AI technology can start to parse those pieces together, grab the basic data and bring it forward, it's going to save them thousands of hours every month as they move forward. So that's one just recent one that we've been engaged on.
Nice. All right. Those are, again, real numbers. Mark, I know Mike was telling us about their use of the IFS solution, but Mark, can you give us an example of one organization that you believe is using AI in ways that matter, and what did they do, and what were the results?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm jumping at the bit to give you some examples actually here, Kevin. We cover a number of specific industries at IFS, from manufacturing, aerospace, through to energy, service, and telco. Now, let me give you a couple quick examples off the top of my head. One is in the aerospace sector. One of the top engine manufacturers, there aren't that many, is a terrific client of IFS. And they've run a program that they call the Blue Data Thread, which essentially means they're taking flight data from their airline customers, and they're using this, essentially applying machine learning to extend the maintenance interval. Suddenly, if you can extend the maintenance interval 1,000 hours, 3,000 hours, 5,000 hours, you can make a significant impact on the margins on that airline, for example, because they cost out a plane on profit per seat these days. So that's significant. Taking that airline data, a flight from London to Dubai is different to a flight from London to New York, for example. So they can use that data depending on the weather conditions, the passenger loading, the thrust, and so forth. It makes a big difference to the wear rate on the engine. So that's pretty powerful. Another one, we've got a customer that has a large contact center, right? We're all familiar with contact centers, the OA100s, and so on. Imagine, Kevin, and this is what we did with this customer. Imagine in a contact center, if you were the supervisor, and you could see your, let's say 50, you could see your 50 agents. But imagine you could listen in real time to all 50 conversations, right? Imagine a speech bubble above the head of those 50 agents, if you will. If I ask the folks on the call here, you've got a room of 50 agents. They've all got headsets on. Imagine you could see a speech bubble with each of them. And when there was a customer complaint or when there was a high priority emergency, one of those speech bubbles flashes. You can jump right into that conversation and you can get, requisite action. Well, we can't do that, but AI can. It can listen to all those 50 conversations and it can look out for the sentiment or the keywords. So that was another terrific example in a contact center where we really leveraged AI to augment the human and do something, a whole new use case that a human couldn't apply. I've got another, couple, but for time here, we'll hold it and
All right.
back to you.
Okay, great examples, Mark. Now, Mike, I know we talked about your use there at Cubic. I'm curious about my comment about if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Mike, what are some of the measurements and improvements that you've seen as a user of an
sure.
AI-driven system?
Well, I mean, we decided to introduce PSO because we wanted to get match fit. We knew that the world was changing. We knew that customers were looking at new contracts, and one of our biggest customers, basically we don't have repair fix. It is, we guarantee the outcome of the solution full time. We guarantee that their system is up and that the paying public are able to use it anywhere on the system. So we were sort of doing 2 or 3 jobs a day per engineer, 4 jobs a day, and we were trying to grow the business, and our SLAs were fairly good. We introduced PSO, and within a couple of months, we had about a 30% improvement in our SLAs across the map on that current contract, and that was quite dramatic. Then we were given insight into our new contract, and our new contract was much more punishing with our big customer. And immediately we knew we could grow into it without having to get more engineers, without having to get more spares. We were able to adapt the system and tune it using SLAs. We're looking at the type of jobs we were expecting, and as soon as we turned the system on and transitioned to it, we were able to hit our targets and hit our SLAs that were quite punishing pretty quickly, and we started making bonuses and things. So the best thing to say I can suggest is that we grew our company on the same resources, on the same heads, on the same skills, using a tool that enabled us to there's an old saying, we box smarter with the tool, and the tool did that for us. But the big one was that we probably improved our SLA by about 30% straight away out of the bat before we took that new contract on.
Nice, nice. And Peter, you're an expert in manufacturing. Tell us about one organization that you feel has been particularly successful. What did they do, and what were the results?
Sure. So we had a manufacturing client who was in the machining business, and there's this concept in manufacturing called micro events, which we've been seeing over several years. But these are activities that happen so fast, blink of an eye, you would never know they occurred, right? But we can wire into the machines at this particular client, and we were monitoring and managing and collecting micro events. So you would see them, they'd be on the list. By using a machine learning, we were able to aggregate and point in time when this was happening. And then we were able to put in video to see what was going on in the particular machines, because it was so fast that you could stop it on a dime immediately to see what was happening in process. And what was happening is chips that were being ground off the parts were falling into the manufacturing process, but we're being cleared through the common process, but we're not being cleared fast enough. And what was happening is that was actually slowing production and putting quality constraints, because some of those chips would get ground into the part, or they nick the part, or make a problem with the part, where you may or may not catch that on the back end. So by using that machine learning, we were able to quickly identify the areas to focus, so that we could go and apply the appropriate fixes from an engineering perspective of what we needed to do. Otherwise, we would never have known where the aggregation of these micro events would occur by going through, because nobody's going to go through line by line of these millions and millions of records, right, to find out where these events are occurring.
Yeah.
So it's all about this aggregation of data to get to the answer in the direction quickly, versus not even ever looking at it because you don't have the time.
Nice. All right, that is Peter Pierce with Baker Tilly, also Dave DeVarney with Baker Tilly. We're also here with Mike Brewer and Mike Gosling. This is Digital Transformation Talk. If you have a question or comment for our group, please feel free to enter that into the chat feature. All right, now, gentlemen, it's time to move to our final discussion point, and I've been looking forward to this one because, as I mentioned in the intro, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a strategy for this. But my question to you folks is, what should that plan look like? And Dave, I know when we were talking before, you were mentioning also, you were agreeing with me, and so you're a very wise man about the importance of having a plan and a strategy. Is there a process that I can follow, one that that will guide my decisions and frame my discussions with my peers and colleagues, that will move me to a plan that will be fruitful and profitable for my organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are basic components that you have to have in place when you think about kind of engaging on AI initiatives. So few of those, and I want to circle back to kind of the primary one. We've talked already about data and how important it is. So there's an element of data governance and people understanding where data is, what's the quality of the data, what can we actually leverage. That's a piece. There's an element of kind of having your core infrastructure in place. What are the tools and technologies you have at your disposal, and make sure that you understand how to use those. There's clearly risk. There's data privacy elements that you need to think about. You need to think about the risk of these models and where data potentially goes. Many of the major vendors have mitigated those, so we can get around those. Adoption is another key one. I talked early about email and just starting to get in there and experiment with the tools. You have to drive adoption of these tools. But I think the key to actually driving out business value is having an innovation engine within your organization. There's not all the use cases haven't been thought of yet. The use cases are going to come over time as people have great ideas about what is kind of the art of the possible. So to facilitate that, you have to have an innovation process where you can take those ideas, you can use techniques like design thinking to really understand the user experience and where it can be applied, who's it going to impact, mitigate those cases to say what's the business value of doing them, what's the technical feasibility of getting these done. That document request one that I mentioned earlier, we went through that innovation session with them and actually did kind of the ranking of the use cases that they pulled forward. Once you have a base use case, I don't think it's about going on this large, massive initiative to attack those. I think you have to be very agile in your approach. I think you have to start with proof of concept. You have to start with pilots. You have to start with something that's working, gets a little bit of traction, and then feed it back into that development mechanism to continue building on it. So work that innovation engine, start small with the things that you're going to build out, and then let that mature and kind of grow. It's not a big built out plan. It's more of an agile approach to driving innovation inside the organization.
Dave, when you say innovation engine, what exactly do you mean by that? Is that like a cross-functional team, at sort of a clearing committee, if you will, for innovation? How does that work?
Sometimes some organizations will have innovation embedded within their organization. So they might have innovation teams kind of scattered throughout. Those teams usually have people who are good at facilitating the ideation, really understanding how is this driving experience, but they're leveraging key stakeholders in the business. So it's 100% a cross-functional team. You have other organizations that might have a centralized innovation function. Again, same concept. Let's look at these ideas. Let's vet them, pilot them, go make the investment case and build them out further. But they always involve having some element of business stakeholders that have to be tightly involved in that innovation process.
And Peter, when we're designing our strategies, what's one thing that we should not do?
One thing you should not do is not eat the proverbial AI elephant in one bite, as Dave pointed out, is like find that area that we can adapt it and apply AI on top of that you already have. I guarantee that everyone that is listening to this call has components of AI in place today that they're not aware of, or they have a good foundation to start. So look at those areas of where you need to get better information, what's important to your business, and target there at a small scale. And also, it really does make sense to work with a firm or a group of people that understand where you should look and how to build up that AI tech stack.
And Mike, as a user, what was the process that you folks went through when designing your strategies? Do you have any tips or suggestions that were helpful for you?
First of all, what Peter and Dave said there, I think is fantastic. I really totally agree with that because we're starting on that journey with the data that we're collecting via IoT, and we're working with our stakeholders and our businesses. So that's fantastic that they validated that. So thanks, guys. When it came to what we did with the PSO, we sort of did exactly that they said. We collected data in advance of all of the types of incidents and all the types of work and customers that we had and our SLAs. And we literally what was the value of that job and if we lost that job and that sort of stuff. And it was a really hard process to do, but it meant that we really understood the data. We really understood the data and how each data reacted and how what were the anomalies and what were the stuff that was going to throw us off. If there was a giraffe in it, will we start seeing giraffes? That sort of stuff. So we really understood the data. By doing that, and that came from a comment talking to the guys at IFS actually, because one of them said, this tool really works if you know your data. And I went away and thought about that. And when it came to starting mapping, we almost had it like, okay, this is our constraints. This is absolutely the data we know that's going to drive this. It's almost like normalizing all the different contracts into this sort of set of data. And that meant from the get-go, we saw really immediate responses in it. We didn't have strange events happening here and there that were caused by rogue data and things like that, or or bizarre things. And so yeah, what they've said is really important. We really understood the data. And I just want to spin off very quickly in that is that we do collect data. We collect lots of data from our customer, and we are embarking on the journey with our customers about how we can utilize that data to look for these anomalies and look for this stuff away from service incidents and actually start doing more predictive about the whole system itself. So it's really exciting what Peter and Dave said there, because that's the journey we're on.
Now, Mark, research has shown that as up to 70% of digital transformation initiatives fail, often because of a lack of alignment between business goals and the goals of the technology. What is your advice for organizations that may be struggling to cross that gap?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I want to pick up something Dave said. I'm really glad he said it. A lot of customers come to me and they ask, what separates your leaders and your laggards in your customer base? And one of the key things that is across all of our leading customers is this mentality of CI, or continuous improvement, continuous innovation. It is the thing we see that makes the difference. So if that mentality is embedded, it will help with respect to your question, Kevin, which is to then perform a stakeholder analysis to see who is the audience you want to impact here. Is it an internal audience? Is it the board? Is it your customers? A lot of the time, the most impactful use cases are around the customer and working backwards from there. And then finally, I would say to prioritize this stuff, you need to quantify it. And we call that a business value assessment. In other words, in what sequence do I want to address these opportunities, if you will? And you can do a very rigorous process these days with that business value analysis. And by the way, with that business value analysis output, you can quite easily sell it to the board. At that point, you can quantify it. I would say one last thing on AI specifically as a project, Kevin. This is where you have to think a little differently. Most projects are about doing what you already do, but better, faster, cheaper, more productively. Well, AI gives you the opportunity to do whole new things. And that's a different challenge, right?
We are here today with Mark Brewer, Mike Gosling, Peter Pierce, and Dave Duvarney. We're here talking about AI in industry. Gentlemen, we have reached the final action item round of the program today. I'm wondering if each of you could please provide us with one quick action item that our viewers can use to take advantage of the ideas and advice here today. Mark, I'd like to start with you. Do you have an action item for us?
I feel like one of those US presidential debates here, Kevin, in giving you my parting thoughts. I'll keep it real brief though, compared to those guys. At the front of the call, I outlined 6 AI classes. If people watch the replay, they can see those classes. I would ask my audience here to try and prioritize those classes. What order would you put those 6 classes in to address, the opportunities that exist in your business? So it sounds like a simple ask. Prioritize those classes.
And Mike, do you have an action item for us?
Yeah, I think understand the data, understand your data, make sure that the data is really solid data, and really try to get really good user-defined cases. If you get those 2 things, you're on the right track.
All right, very good. Thank you. Peter, what is your action item for us today?
I would say cataloging your use cases is a good starting point. Start documenting areas where you want to see improvement, areas that take you a long time to figure out results. Prioritize those, get them documented, and that could be a good starting point for organizations as they head down their AI path.
Nice. Thank you, Peter. And finally, Dave, what is your action item for us today, Dave?
Yeah, I would definitely just take advantage of the hype that's around generative AI right now. It is still hype. It's going to be exciting. The way I would do that, embed that into your work every day. Find 2-3 ways that you can embed generative AI models into your work. That'll help you be more productive, and it'll start demonstrating that case to others of how to use it.
That is Dave Duvarney, Principal at Baker Tilly. Also Mark Brewer, Vice President of Service Industries at IFS. Mike Gosling was with us, IT Services Platform Manager at Cubic Transportation Systems, and finally, Peter Pierce, also a principal at Baker Tilly. Gentlemen, thank you so much for a great panel today. Your perspectives and advice were spot on. I thank you so much, and I hope that we'll get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you also for being with us. Join us again next time on Digital Transformation Talk on November 19th with another great panel of guests. We'll be discussing digital transformation from cost reduction to value creation. That should be another great discussion. In the meantime, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there, so check me out. I'm Kevin Crane, and you can also check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk, and until next time, I'm Kevin Crane. Thanks for watching.